Welcome to the Queens of Moxie, a podcast all about empowering women to reclaim their Moxie, their power. I'm Mary Kay Campbell, and I'm the host of this program. Each week, we'll talk with amazing women who have reclaimed their Moxie, overcome challenges, and are living their best life. So let's get started. We're here today with Queens of Moxie podcast, and I am so excited to have my good friend Kristin here with us. She has got just the most awesome background, and I always say her name wrong, but Sarakti. Did I get it? Oh, yes, I got it right. What I adore about Kristin is she's just got so much energy and is always super positive and just tons of fun to be around.
Aw, thanks.
You are welcome. I'm just so glad you're here. So just to give you guys a little bit of background on Kristin, she got her undergraduate degree from Virginia Tech in wildlife biology with a minor in biology. And she did that for 9 years. And then that Momma thing happened. She also has big plans for when her children are out of the house. So her kids are 17 and 15. And 15. Yep. Okay, 17 and 15. So she's nearing that empty nest stage and is looking forward to not enjoying the time with her kids now, but also what the future holds. So Kristin, again, thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. It's always such a pleasure. I'm excited to share my story.
Yeah.
It's kind of a wild story because if you look at my resume, I've had 4 careers, but they all really kind of meld together at the very end, and I'm hoping that this is my last one.
Oh, so I can't wait to hear more about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the wildest part.
Yeah.
Because
totally wild. Literally wildlife.
Right, wildlife biology. And one time you were telling us, like, I think I asked you what your craziest experience was, and the story you shared was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, quite a few.
You do. And so before we go into like everything else you've done, tell us like a couple of those crazy stories.
Yeah. Well, so when I graduated from high school, I knew I wanted to study wildlife. And actually, at first, I wanted to be a wildlife veterinarian. So I went into tech at pre-vet, and then I realized very quickly that that is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to like track them and study them. And so I shifted into wildlife biology. And then when I was a senior, I met this man. He was from Kenya, and he was getting his PhD on human-wildlife conflicts, kind of focusing on elephants. And so I had the good fortune of graduating and going straight to Africa, which was pretty amazing. So I got to live in Kenya and study elephants and work with human wildlife conflicts. And I did some research on the coast in Mombasa on sea turtles. And that is when when I realized that you have to involve the community. You have to involve people. Mm-hmm. And it took me going there to realize like there is no such thing as conservation without working with the locals and the people. And so they've done a beautiful job in Kenya making that happen, turning poachers into protectors, honestly, from like poaching elephants or poaching sea turtle eggs and paying the locals more money to protect them. So it's a phenomenal program. And from there, I tried to stay, but I got, I literally got kicked out because I couldn't stay any longer. And I actually was trying to do some research with Jane Goodall in her chimp sanctuary. So that was kind of my dream, to stay in Africa, but that didn't happen. But I came back and I literally worked so many different jobs, traveled the world, traveled the country for about 9 years. And I really wanted to study large mammals. So I studied a variety of birds and seabirds, and then I got the job studying black bears, which was amazing. And so I did that for a long time. And then my end goal dream was to study mountain lions. So in between all of that, I did marine science, and I studied sea turtles in Texas and a lot of different wildlife. And then I finally got my quote dream job studying mountain lions. And that was in Jackson Hole. And you can only study them in the winter when it's very, very cold, -20, very hard. It was a very hard, intense research project. And so after doing that for the season, it was amazing. But it was not a sustainable job. And at that time, I was thinking, like, maybe I do want kids. You know, you kind of get into that thought process of like, what would it be like with them, or what would it be like without them? So I realized, like, I just couldn't be a mom and do this career, because you're out in the field and you're moving every year, and it's very, very tough work. So I decided to go into teaching and teach conservation. So
no, wait. Before you go into the teaching, because you've like breezed through 9 years.
Yeah.
And I know there are some really amazing, remarkable stories in there. We're going to get to the teaching part. But first, all right, let's talk about one of the most exciting or interesting or wildest adventures you had in Africa. We'll start there. What was something that happened there that you were really proud of or excited about?
Gosh, I feel like all of it, but really working with the locals on the elephant issue, because they have these migratory patterns that are never going to change. And the communities set up on the migration patterns just because they don't know. And so they've got all these settlements everywhere, and the elephants are just migrating, and they are going through these villages, and they're destroying all the crops, and they're eating all the maize. And I mean, they're very aggressive, very dangerous animals. And people don't really realize that, like, oh, an elephant, they are extremely territorial, very aggressive. A lot of people get killed by elephants every year. So working with the local community on that project was such a rewarding experience, because you got to see finally, once people understand the situation, how can we fix this? Yes, we don't expect you to move, but like slowly figuring out how we can have these people, have these people kind of relocate without disrupting their whole lives. And luckily they're kind of more nomadic too. So I think working with the locals, which was interesting, because while we had so many amazing experiences with the actual wildlife and studying them and tracking them, it was about the people, which that was very surprising for me. That was like a new experience for me, because I always was like, oh, it's all about the animals and save the world and save the earth. But it was coming back to, wow, it like takes a village. Like, we need to be a part of this, us humans, to make a difference, to be able to save these rare endangered species. Yeah. So I think we're working with the local people. Yeah. They were so beautiful, and they're so welcoming. And like, while there was, of course, sometimes a language gap, like, it was just remarkable, truly. And seeing the women and the children and how much they work really makes you realize, like, how lucky we have it here.
Yeah, sure.
4-year-olds, going down to the rivers and bringing water up on their heads, like 4 by themselves or with like a friend, like, remarkable.
Right.
How much work they do to survive.
Yeah. I'm sure that was an eye-opening experience, especially as, 21, 22-year-old, like, when your frontal lobe isn't quite yet developed. And
like, have no idea what the rest of the world is dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, you live in your bubble of college, right? Yeah. So it was, I was blessed to go so quickly at such a young age to really realize, like, wow, we've got to like help the people too in order to help the wildlife. Yeah.
All right. So now you're back in the U.S.
Yep.
And I think it was a black bear, the story that you told me about. So can you share that story? Yeah.
I don't know which one I shared with you, but the one that was
crawling into
into the den. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm, smaller than most of my wildlife biologist friends that I was working with, which is a blessing and a curse, because that's when you're small, like, you're the one that's going to go into the bear dens. And so it was one situation where the bears had they were like building these dens kind of in these big root balls. The trees had fallen over in the big root balls. So they kind of dig under these root balls and build this gorgeous, like, open den. And there was a very, very small opening. So everyone looks at me and they're trying to figure out who's going to go in and dart her. And I was the lucky one that was chosen. And so we go up, we go in and we dart the mom with ketamine darts, and then we leave the den and let her, let the drug take effect. Well, this mama was very aware and very alert. And it's funny because like people think bears hibernate and just go to sleep and that they don't do anything. That's not true at all. The moms care for their babies all winter long. They don't leave the den. The males will leave the den if it's a really warm, beautiful day, but the females don't. And so, but she was very alert. So I get in there, and of course, like my teammates have my ankles to like be able to pull me out because I'm on my belly crawling in. And I literally go around this corner, and there she is, like staring me, or at me with this like intensity, like a mama bear, right? Mm-hmm. And I dart her as quickly as I can, as safely as I can, and she launched. Like that's when she was like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm sure adrenaline's hitting her. She's launching at me, and I'm screaming to get my biologist friends to pull me out. So they get me out, pull me out by my ankles, and we try to block the den because it's open. So we're trying to block this mama bear from coming after us. So luckily the drugs work really quickly. They work within 5 minutes. So that was a very exciting experience.
Yeah. Could have died. No big deal. Let's just crawl into a mama bear's den and dart her.
Oh, I know. But that was like such interesting research because there were so many different types of dens. Like dens where the bear will go up 50 feet up into a big hollowed out tree and go all the way back down and den. They'll den in clear cuts, actually, like where the land has been clear cut and there's a bunch of brush piles everywhere. They'll even den in people's like brush piles that they have in their backyard. I mean, they're very creative with where they're going to den.
So what were you studying? You dart her. Yeah. She goes to sleep. Then what do you do?
So then we were doing cub research and trying to get a sense of population and true, like how many cubs are they having, how big, just all the research. And so we would actually first we would put Vicks Vapor Rub on the mama's nose. And then we would do our research.
Wait. What was the Vicks for?
So then when we're done with our research, we swipe Vicks on the baby, on the back of their heads, from the head to their tail, because they will eat their cubs if it smells like there's a foreign scent. Now, birds do not do that. People have this misconception, but bears do. So they realized that you have to put Vicks Vapor Rub or something on there so they lick it off and then they have that scent off. So, or it's masking the scent. But we were doing a ton of cub research, looking at populations, looking at, just cub data. And then in the summer, we were actually getting hair samples where we would try to get the bears to crawl through kind of like barbed wire. It doesn't hurt them, but it like catches hair. And then that also helped us with populations and looking at genetics and looking at, just different bear territories and how big is their territory, how far are they going. Very, very interesting data. And then, of course, taking blood samples in the summer where we would actually trap them. And there's two types of traps. There's a big culvert trap, and then there are leg snares. And so trapping them, collecting blood samples, again, hair samples, trying to get as much data about the bears and trying to just learn about their population. They are doing very well in Virginia. I think a lot of people experience that. So that's great. But that was part of the research.
Yeah. And obviously none of this hurts them. It's just to make it safe for you to collect the data to protect them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Because they are hunted and, it's important to know their population. And when you are working with people making those laws, like you have to have that data to back it up.
Sure. Now, you said mountain lions was your favorite or your
beautiful
dream job.
They were my dream job. Or it was my dream job to study them. And they are the most beautiful creatures that I've ever seen. Hands down. It was such an intense experience. And it's in such intense conditions with the snow and having to, you snowmobile 10 miles into the woods and then you hike all day into the evening sometimes. Avalanches. We were in a few avalanches, which was scary. People on the project had died prior. I mean, it's a very dangerous job. And so it was very exciting. again, we were studying population because in Wyoming, they're very heavily hunted. And so we were working, it was a nonprofit group, and we were trying to really get a good sense of their population. So we were out truly trying to tree them, collar them, collect data, collect blood work, and then track them. And that's what we did with a lot of my other projects too. And even sea turtles, you can put a little satellite tracker on them, and we tracked them for years. It was so interesting. But yeah, it was amazing experience. Not something that you can do with a family, and it's so dangerous. Like, it's just such a dangerous job.
Didn't you say you got caught in an ambulance?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it was the dangerous thing about being in the winter in Wyoming is sometimes if you have a really sunny day, there's a crust that's formed underneath the snow because it kind of melts and then refreezes because the temperature variance is huge. And so there were several times that we were in an avalanche, but we were lucky to either one kind of ride on top of it, or there was another time where we kind of had our poles and we like planted ourselves into the snow while the snow went all around us. And you wear beacons, of course, but it's not to save you, it's to find your body, which is terrible. But because when you're in a true avalanche and you're under the snow, it compacts like cement, like concrete.
Oh, so
and you
can't.
Yeah. Like there are very few, situations I think where you could get out of an avalanche. So yeah, that was kind of intense work.
So the two that you were in, that you I want to make sure I understand that. One, you were able to get somewhere and it was protected, and the second one you put your pole in, and by putting your pole in, it went around you.
Yeah. You have to kind of like plant yourself, right?
And you create,
and the snow
like,
kind of goes around you. Yeah, it's like you're like
if you were a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing that it didn't just
Take
overwhelm you.
Right now.
Yeah. And the strength that it would take to hold that. I mean,
well, luckily we were at the top of the mountain too.
Okay.
So we weren't like, kind of trying to traverse on the middle to lower part.
Right. Where there's more snow and it's heavier.
Where it accumulates as it's coming down.
It's like a snowball.
Yeah, literally. But a big mountain.
Yes. Wow.
So good times. But,
I mean, I have to ask, we're moms now.
Mm-hmm.
What did your mom and dad, what did they think of what you were doing?
It's so funny. I never told them these stories. But my mom and my dad, they were so interested in it.
Yeah.
And I think they lived vicariously through me.
Sure.
Because my mom even was able to come out with her girlfriend on one of our bear studies, which was amazing. And actually, I think my mom and dad were able to come out on another one when we were studying them in the clear-cut forests. So they got to experience some pretty amazing things.
Yeah. And
they got to visit me in Africa and experience that. So I just, told them all the good stuff.
Right.
Which is funny now, having, 2 children. I'm like, I kind of want them to only tell me the good stuff. I don't think I want to worry about all the other things they're doing.
Innocence is
that
bliss,
are risky.
Huh?
Yeah, I know. It is. I think that's maybe what I need to share with my children.
Wow. Do your children know about these stories?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That was our bedtime stories. I mean, we read books, of course, but I also told them all kinds of fun wildlife stories.
Neat.
And I think that's what got Hale interested in the biology part.
Yeah.
So all the stories.
Hale is a senior.
Yep.
And what does Hale want to major in?
So right now, marine science.
Okay.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
I know. And wildlife biology. Kind of both, which is tough because there are not a lot of schools that have both. You kind of choose one or the other. Mm-hmm. But once you get a degree in one or the other, you can take it anywhere.
Yeah. Sure.
Absolutely. Sure. And then grad school, you can hone in on what you really want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's exciting.
Yes, it was very fun.
Okay. So transitioning out of this, so you were what, 30?
Now I'm 30.
Okay.
Probably 30. Yes. I'm probably close to 30. And that's when I was like, yeah, maybe have a family sooner than later. Although, gosh, 30 is super young. 31, 32. young to have kids now compared to now. Right? I'm like, wow, I was like a baby.
Not compared to our parents' generation, but yeah.
Right? I know, it's so crazy.
I think my mom had me at like 23.
Yes, I know, it's wild. Oh my gosh, I can't, With what you do, what you gotta do.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just decided that was important. And what could I do to be with my husband, right? And not always be gone. I was always away.
Right.
And have a family. So that's when I decided to, get my master's in education and went to University of Colorado and was pregnant, finishing my master's. That was crazy town.
I did that too, so I get it.
So fun, isn't it?
Oh, loads.
Oh my gosh. So I taught conservation for many years in like all different school systems, public, chartered, private. And then while, we're in Colorado doing this, all my siblings are having babies. And I realized that I did not want to do this alone. And I was close with my cousins growing up. So we made the very big decision to move back to Virginia because my family's from here. And we came to Charlottesville because I had a good friend here and we visited and I just fell in love. And I was very familiar with Charlottesville because, of course, going to tech and just growing up in the Tidewater. So we decided to come back here and I'm so glad we did because all the cousins are like best friends. So it was the best decision I made for my children. But then while I was here, the kids, Hale was real young. And then as Miles, I think I was pregnant with Miles, I realized like I just needed a job that I didn't have to work every day, all night. As a teacher, it's very hard to be a teacher. I commend them because it is a tough job. And then my kids were babies. And so I knew I wanted to like have a job where I could come home, pick them up at a normal time, 5 o'clock, get home, spend time with them in the evenings, put them to bed, have some downtime, and then go back to work. And so I had this amazing opportunity to start the crime analysis unit at the Charlottesville Police Department. Now, people are like, how did that happen?
Yes.
So it was actually the perfect meld of my two positions because it was wildlife, like mapping wildlife is all mapping, GIS, software, tracking. Crime analysis is very similar. You're tracking crime. You're looking at patterns. You're predicting crime.
That makes sense.
And the component was I was going to get really involved in the Virginia Crime Analysis Association. So I did, and I became president eventually. I was on the board for my whole time there, became president, and ran the association. So that was the teaching component, was all the education and the training. So it was kind of like putting my past two careers together. But then, so I was there for 6 years, and it was amazing. Like, grew it, had great software, wrote grants, implemented a lot of stuff. But I loved running the association, the Virginia Crime Analysis Network side. And so I realized, like, gosh, I was just ready for growth. I wanted to grow. And I realized, like, that was my calling. And so I applied to a bunch of different associations and got the Blue Ridge Home Builders Association job, which is what led me into real estate 5 years later. And, the Blue Ridge Home Builders Association is like, it's very tapped into the real estate market because half of our members are realtors and brokerages, and you're learning all about new builds and policy and planning. So it was all very similar to real estate. And I loved it. I loved the aspect of running an association and just being an association executive and the training that we offered our members and the events that, we got to put on. So it was a phenomenal experience. And I loved it. I was there for a long time. And that's when the opportunity presented itself to go into real estate, which was, it was a no-brainer for me because of the opportunity to just, try something new that was going to challenge me. And I loved real estate. And at the same time, I literally had bought a 1971 home. So I'm like in the throes of renovating my house. And I loved it. And I was like, this would be fun. So that's when I launched into real estate. that I have been in for almost 5 years now, which is hard to believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think what strikes me with everything that you've said is you've been open. So you just had the courage to take the plunge. So you have this opportunity to go to Kenya, you go. You have this opportunity to go into teaching, you teach. You have this opportunity to go into crime analysis. I mean, like, and somebody looking at it would go, well, the wildlife and the teaching, you get it. Criminal stuff, not so much, and then into associations, definitely not really associated. Yeah. So if someone were to look at your resume, they'd be like, I don't understand how this happens.
Yeah.
But what is so impressive is that you are really looking to grow, to be challenged, and you're looking for a new adventure each time. I mean, it's amazing.
Life is so short. It is so short, and that is why I embrace change so much, because I'm the kind of person that the minute I feel complacent, it's the minute I need to go, and grow and find new opportunities, because it's just, there's so much you can do in your life. And for me, I would not have changed my past for the world. Yes, people sometimes are just, mesmerized, or even like, wow, you did what? Why didn't you just stick with one career? And I just think, like, because life is short and there's so much out there that I wanted to learn and do and try, and I didn't look for these opportunities. They presented themselves. I mean, yes, you kind of draw certain opportunities to you, right? But it's not like I was looking and seeking. I took the opportunity when I saw a glimmer of something there. And it has been so fun. And for me, like, now I, have kind of excelled in my real estate career. I have my broker's license now. And while I don't want to open my own brokerage right now here, like, knowing that that I've got the skills to do it is just so nice. And just feeling like I've gotten so much more education to be able to do my job even better and to help my clients in a way that I couldn't be able to help them 3 years ago is awesome. Yeah. And it is so fun, like, finding someone a home, especially in this market where it is very hard to find a home. The statistics out there, we go to a lot of economic summits. I mean, we are millions of homes short in this country, and that's scary. So being able to finally find someone a place to, like, grow their family, have memories, and be able to be a part of a community by being a homeowner is, like, just awesome. So rewarding. And it's funny because while, yes, wildlife was so adventurous, doing what I'm doing now is just as rewarding, right? In a very different way. To be able to work with families or not even families, a single person or somebody just trying to finally invest in real estate, because it is the quickest way to wealth. And when you're a homeowner, like, everything you put into that house, like, you feel it, it's like worth it because it's yours. So I think that's the fun part, and building relationships and being friends with my clients that I helped buy them a house 3 years ago. We're still friends and hang out. Like, that's the joy, truly, is building relationships with people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and, we come to a point in our lives where we realize that building relationships, having community, having our tribe is what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is, and at the end of the day, so many other things fall away, but who you're connected with makes such a tremendous difference in your happiness.
Yeah, 100%.
So now your next adventure is not that far away.
No, it's not.
It's like 3 years.
3 years.
And I'm like less than a year, so I can appreciate this.
Yeah.
So when you become an empty nester, I know you love the water and
it's
the
my happy
beach.
place.
Yes. So tell us
place.
what you think your next adventure is going to be.
Yeah. So we have a sailboat that we keep in Urbana on the Rappahannock River, Valhalla. And we want to spend more time on the boat for sure. But the end goal, I think, in the next decade is to try to live on the boat. Like, live on the boat, maybe have a small little place, but finally go sail the world. Not around the world. My husband would love me to do that. I don't know if I'm brave enough for that yet. Maybe I will be. Maybe I won't care in 10 years. But, just finally going to see the whole Caribbean and Belize and go up north to like Maine. Like that's our dream is to live on the boat and have very minimal stuff. It seems just liberating for us both, having been planted for so long and having been a gypsy in my past. I was going to say, you have that nomadic kind of personality. Yes. I'm like, what a great way to like have the last part of my life similar to my first part,
very much just that wanderlust.
And wander and just enjoy life and just see what happens day to day and not have a plan. I think that's what I'm most excited about is just to not have a plan. Like, that's kind of hard to even wrap our heads around.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is. Yeah. Well, and you and I both lost a parent within this last year, and we recognize that it can happen, and it can happen younger than you want it to happen. At the age where Social Security is supposed to be fully vested at like 69 and a half. Well, my mom got really sick at 70 and died just, before she turned 73. Yeah. If I'm not able to retire until 79 and a half, it makes you really stop and go, okay, no. Yeah. I'm going to live in the moment. I'm going to live for now. Yeah. And
there's no guarantee.
There is no guarantee, and that's part of what Queens of Moxie is all about is really, not waiting until you have a traumatic event, like for me, a car accident, but it could be anything. Not waiting for that to live your authentic life, to live in joy and to be the person you're supposed to be, that you're being called to be, and do the things that you're being called to do, that you love, that you're passionate about, that light you up. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And that's why I'm always like encouraging people to just take that leap of faith because you've got nothing to lose.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you might not make as much money in the beginning. Like, yes, those are real things. But other than that, like, you really have nothing to lose.
Right.
If you're feeling stagnant or just not excited anymore about life or where you are or your job, like, it's time to grow.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
So one of the things I like to ask everybody at the end of the interview is, if you had to give one piece of advice to the women who are listening today, what would be that advice?
To not be afraid and to not let your life be controlled by fear, because I really do feel like so many things that keep us from doing what we really want to do is fear. And fear is very natural, but it is also so powerful. And you just have to make that choice that you're not going to let fear decide your life. Like, make passion decide your life. So, and I say this genuinely because I am afraid every time I make these big shifts. Oh my gosh, I stay up at 2 a.m. thinking about it. I am very human, but just trying to like see the good and put the fear kind of behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. Kristin, it has been so fun to talk to you.
Thank you.
I could talk to you all day.
I know, right?
I know. Well, tell me another story. But I also want to respect your time and appreciate the fact that you have taken time out of your extremely busy schedule to come and talk with us today. And
such a pleasure.
Kristin, thank you again. Thanks for joining us on the Queens of Moxie podcast. Each week we come to you with amazing women who have overcome obstacles, who are living their best life and reclaiming their moxie. We hope to see you next week.